that's giving you all these like righteous, sacred beliefs that you're never to question. They become part of your framework, right?
Yeah.
So no matter what and so some of the framework that you've internalized, those are the limitations. You're super limited because you don't, life outside of that belief system, it doesn't exist. You're supposed to use those beliefs as a form of safety from, to survive. If you don't have the opportunity to suffer enough, you're not going to question those things, and you don't aren't aware. You're not consciously aware. They're limiting your awareness. You would never thought. So for example, I go into how I was raised in this very kind of, it was very totalitarian religion. This is the best religion. There's no alternative. And there was no access to anything alternative, because why would you? We have the best religion. Why would you even open yourself up to think differently? So it was very totalitarian. So can you see how, as a child, without question, it's going to create a framework around my thoughts and how I think and how I view the world. Right?
Yeah.
So someone in that belief system who's having symptoms of mental illness or depression and all of those like negative survival chemicals, they're going to think it's something else. They're not going to question the dogma, the closed-mindedness, the narcissistic self-righteous. They're never going to question that. So can you see how, if you look back, even if you're doing kind of these, let's just say forward thought, what I want to become, it's still in the framework of some form of dogma. Right?
Right.
Like your vision board. I want to be thinner. I want to eat healthy. Do you see how that's like conformed into it's a coping mechanism, and you're not questioning that goal on a vision board as a source of why you have low self-esteem, why you feel terrible about yourself. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I found something like in the last couple of days, I've been really like, as I step away and I'm like, okay, if I am the person who does not care, I'm like divorced from any concept of like what my weight is, and I'm not like living in that rumination of like, what am I doing, and am I eating, and did I exercise, try and exercise more, and all this other stuff. Who am I? Mm-hmm. And it brought me to a place that I have been, and it was when I used to go to France all the time. I would step off the plane in France, and I would just be in my life.
Yeah.
And it was just living. And I don't know if it was because of me being in a different place. Like,
Well, you might have given yourself freedom from your own cultural ideology. So when you're in a different country, you kind of just have to assimilate and just be in the space and observe it. So you probably were more open-minded in that environment because it wasn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it is freeing because you can just let people be the way they are. You can let people dress the way they dress. You're not controlling it. Whereas when you come home, you're trying to control how you're perceived by your own country, by your own people, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's the benefit for a lot of people of travel, because it gets you out of your own kind of like self-centered identity in your own environment. It allows you to see there's alternative environments that are happier, better, not as critical, and vice versa. Someone from France might feel better coming to the United States for the same reasons, even though their country might be more liberal or expanded than ours, right?
Yeah. It's
not.
It's just been a fascinating thing, because I've been trying to kind of allow myself to be in the head of that. Like, okay, well, if I were on vacation, how would I feel right now? What would I do? What would I want to do? And it's just amazing the amount of actual activity that burst onto my scene as soon as I started thinking in that way.
So do you see how when you think about body image as a totalitarian concept, right? Just this, there's no alternative. How that basically puts you in a position to think that your body, because it doesn't look a certain way, is keeping you from that freedom. Because you're imposing this idea, it has to look better, be approvable for me to have access to enjoying the beach, to sit in the sun, to allow my body to feel the warmth of the sun. This weird concept that it has to meet a visible, it has to have a certain view based on other people and within yourself for you to have access to living. When you remove the body image, right? Like we practiced in that consult, like over and over and over again, right? What would it be like to just not have to care or be irrelevant? Well, all of a sudden you have instant access to that freedom. There is no condition you have to meet. You're in a body. It's alive. There's the sun. Go get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Well, and the funny thing was, we had our conversation on Thursday, right?
Yes.
I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday. So on Thursday night, I got a call for a big audition on Friday, and it was, once again, one of these, like, sexy, powerful women and everything. But instead of me saying, oh, what if I don't look good enough? I'm like, well, if they wanted to see me for this, then they wanted to see me for this.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the woman.
I don't have to think about any of that other crap.
No, how'd that feel?
And
did you feel empowered?
Amazing.
Well, you probably went in there and was like, I'm fucking sexy. I'm going to be that girl.
I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, who is this person? What is this? Well, people who are sexy don't think they're sexy. They don't think about it.
No, they just exude like their essence. Yeah. Well, if you feel that way, so the unfortunate thing is so many people believe this cult dogma around you're not sexy unless you look like you're 12. And you're not sexy unless your lips are freaking magnified and protruding out inches off your face because of all the freaking injections you're doing. Like they believe these weird cult mentalities and then without questioning it as misogynistic, narcissistic, cult mentality. They don't see it as inhumane. And then they think they're bad. They think that their normal, natural body is bad, not this freaking distorted and twisted concept of body image that's unrealistic for 95% of all people seeking it, right? So then you don't feel sexy because you believe this cult, bizarre mental illness concept of what sexy is.
Right, exactly. And, the one thing that I was when I went in, I was like, I did this really good centering breathing meditation that just kind of puts me into the moment and takes away all that other shit. Like everything else just falls away anyway. But also having this as like kind of the guide of like, what somebody else thinks about me is none of my business, that whole concept.
Yeah. It's there, it really coming.
Yeah. As long as I've got myself aligned and I'm giving everything that is pure in my heart and in my consciousness,
and it's true.
That's all I can do.
Yeah, you just have to present the truth. So here's the truth of the body I'm in, and here's the truth of the way that I feel this character. And if it's the right fit, they're going to choose you. If it's not, they should choose the right fit. The person who's creating this piece of art should choose what fits in it, what's in his or her mind, right? Yeah. So it's not about you.
And I'm not going to blame it. No, and to blame it on like, oh, well, if I was 10 pounds lighter or whatever, it's just like so absurd. Because also, like, I've been on the other end where I'm casting people, and I don't cast people based on their weight. I cast if they've got the talent to handle the role.
Yeah, the essence of it, right? They have the essence of the character that you're looking for. Yeah.
Like, I don't even, like, if I look at somebody's resume, I don't look at what they write. I only care about what is coming from them, and if they've got the ability to, like, embrace character.
Okay, so here's what I want you to really think about. So go into the state of mind of someone who will only cast women that are thin and frail.
It's an asshole.
They're misogynists, and they're trying to promote a cult ideology that this is ideal and we're special and all. So just imagine newscast. Okay. So I work with some people in New York that sit in front of the news.
Yeah.
Okay. There's one in particular that only hires the same kind of body type. You could probably guess which one it is. How many people on that staff have an eating disorder? Which means they're mentally ill. Which means they're mentally ill. And I'm not saying that it just means that tell them, just think about the way their brain is functioning in that state. It's in severe fight or flight, severe cognitive distortion.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. But anyways, think of the mentality that only wants the body type of a teenager in women who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s. You cannot have a normal body. Just go there.
Yeah, you have to be someone who wants to make sure that a woman doesn't have much power.
Correct.
Because a grown-up woman.
You got it. So that's right? Just go into that person's psyche. Who would do that? They are misogynists. They are controlling. They're narcissists from the nth degree, trying to be superior and play, this is your role as a woman. Right. Yeah. I know. So when you're accommodating to that mentality, you're basically saying it's true. That's the role of women. That's the role. It's no different than toxic masculinity either. That's just as horrible. Right?
Yeah.
So when you accommodate to that, your feelings of I am worthless, based on that ideology, is saying I agree. Women's role is basically to be looked at and to be either accepted or thrown in the trash. There's no power. It's your power is based on if a man, and the sucky thing is narcissistic women as well who hold themselves to that pedophilic, misogynistic concept, if they accept you or not. So you're not autonomous. You're a slave to the opinion of these ultra grandiose, narcissistic people suffering. They're suffering. They clearly are suffering, right? And you're just saying, they're right. They're right. I need to lose 25 pounds to feel good about me. Because if I don't look like that, I am not lovable. So you can see simplistically your fundamental psychological needs as a human being, those basic foundational survival mechanisms of need will never be met. Because, 1, you're not lovable. You're not thin enough. 2, you have to diet and starve yourself, which means you're probably going to be overeating, which makes things just horrible cycle of terror. In survival mode. Fight or flight, right? And you live that way.
It's fascinating too because like I've gotten into this thing where I've been playing this game with myself since our chat, and I was like, if I could live forever, would I be okay being what I am right now?
Well, that's like saying, would I be okay if that subculture of grandiose narcissism thinks I'm inferior? Right?
Yeah.
You have, I mean, because it's really not about the body image as much as it is the symbolism of what it is. Right? It symbolizes that I'm acceptable. I'm lovable. That body image means that I have advantage. There's no argument. In a thin supremacist world, thinner people have more. Again, they're symbolized. They have this aura of success. Even if they're mentally ill and depressed and have suicidal tendencies and they're obsessive compulsive and they have, all of these caged mentality, complex PTSD issues, they're still symbolized as superior because they just have this look of success. Right? So again,
I would love to, even like I write a lot, I produce a lot of my own stuff with like some big name actors and everything, and I could totally imagine embracing more of this to have this part of the message in the things that I create. And because it is so freeing. There's like those moments, of course, that I have a panic inside.
Well, and you have to face the vulnerability. You have to face, I will be rejected. But if you live with that acceptance of it, like I accept that if I am truthful and full, and I'm living with integrity, people who don't recognize that or don't value that, you're going to be rejected by them. They want you to be conformed. Right. They want those edges. You need to be a follower. You have to do what you're told. They want that. They're seeking that. They're not going to be attracted to you because you're not focused in on it. You're not making that a priority. You know, you can look at this from so many different belief systems. What I just said, if you were to rewind a minute and go forward, applies to religion. It applies to any dogma that is not to be questioned. Right? It's not just thin supremacy. It's just any cult mentality that requires you conform to ideological concepts that have nothing to do with your inherent character and who you truthfully are. They don't, that is empty. You know, when someone who has adapted their self-worth relative or their survival worth to their tribe to concepts of you have to do what you're told, they get upset when someone doesn't follow. Why isn't that person doing what they're told? That's bad. Obviously, this isn't black and white. There's so much gray. It's like you should be following the stoplights. You know, why are you drinking and driving? You know, obviously there's, you know, reality there, but there's always compassion for someone who has mental illness, right? But in a conformed society, you either do what you're told or you're stigmatized as a flawed human being. So if you're different, you...
But that happens. That starts from when you're little.
Totally.
People aren't allowed to question
authority.
But now it's like, okay, wait, I'm grown up. I can't question it.
This is why I love college. This is why I think everybody, if they can afford it, which is so hard now, should go to college because they teach questioning authority. The whole point of going to a university, for those of you who have never gone and think we're getting brainwashed, we're taught to question authority. You're taught to question science. That's how it gets better. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, that was just like a side bubble. Going back to you. When you live in a totalitarian environment, so many people think totalitarianism is a government, right? Like dictatorship. Well, guess what? When you think about thin supremacy or even certain types of religious dogma, when you're told there is no alternative, this is the only right way, it becomes your psyche ends up being very similar to people who have been raised in dictatorship, completely removed from alternatives. It's like when you never travel, when you never look at things outside of your own viewpoint, right? Your brain becomes conditioned by it. Chemistry becomes conditioned by it. There's no alternative. So, you know, your depression, there is no alternative to your depression. It's a disease now, right? Because you're not allowed to open yourself up to see and question these structures that say there's no alternative. So when you look at your own personal self-concept, who am I? How much of your self-concept, I'm putting quotes around that, is based on what you're told you have to be loved and accepted? I am thinner than this. I am this religion. That is superior to all others. You know. I am how smart I am. My intelligence. You know, you attach some type of sense of who you are, not from the inside. It's from these. It's like readable, visible, you know, concepts. Someone can look at you and read you and say, okay, you know, she's wearing the right shoes, the right purse, she's got the right pants. They can just read you based on, is that real?
No.
Yeah, that's just fitting in, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying if you identify by that, you're going to be hollow. It's going to be empty on the inside. And you're going to feel like you need to be told what to do. I have to be told what to do. I have
It's so
to.
fascinating that you're saying all this, because I have had this little round of friendship with this woman who seemed like all like, oh, you're the best thing, and then very quickly it turned into something where she was telling me, well, you should do your eyebrows like this, you really shouldn't dress like that, and you need to get a better car, and like all these things, and finally, like I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, it's sad.
We need to define who we are, and this isn't working for me.
Well, and she's
like,
just...
But it was interesting, because it's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, this is exactly...
She has no self-concept.
Of this.
Yeah, she has no it's really sad. So I hear that and I go, that's a real human being that truly believes that who you are is based on these kind of like readable looks that message something. You are this message of superiority. Again, these are all signs and symptoms of co-narcissism. You have to accommodate to these narcissistic concepts for you to be accepted by the people who are creating those concepts, right?
Yeah.
The sociopaths that want to say you have to be emaciated for me to like you. And you have to dedicate your whole life towards changing the way your face looks to accommodate to this culture. So we have to do all these injections, and you have to not look like you're supposed to look. You're supposed to look like these weird, distorted, magnified, contorted body images, right? To be accepted, right? Because they don't, so when people are doing that, they don't have a sense of integrity. They don't have a sense of it. So why would they be seeking that in others? So again, if they're hollow, meaning they're just a body, the body's alive, but they're dead. Their soul has been removed or displaced, right? They're not going to be seeking your heart because they don't have a sense of their own. They only have a sense of their mental constructed concepts of what they're supposed to be, whether it's body image, religious image, just any type of conformed image. I always go to religion because it's such an obvious brainwashed concept of you. You are this religion. You dress this way. Your language is this way. You only hang out with people like this. You know, there's no authentic self in it. If you think there is, it's sad. Because it's so tiny, that existence, and you wonder why you're depressed and need pills and need this and have obsessive compulsive problems and have these impulses, and you wonder why you suffer so much. You're never questioning that box that you think is so righteous and safe. You think it's safe, right? Never questioning, well, where's the truth of you? Where's your true integrity? What if you remove these belief systems? What do you have left, right? So if you remove body image 100% from your capacity, what are you? Who are you? Really, it's what, because the go to what rather than who. What are you?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's just consciousness. Consciousness filling this meat suit.
Yeah, I'm a human. I'm a human being with human essence. That is not uniquely yours. It's human. So it kind of takes the whole you're special out of it. So something that I've come to really try to verbalize as I'm finishing this book and I'm writing. How do you really simply describe recovery? Well, remove specialness from your life permanently. How's that feel? You're not special anymore. Take the pedestal away forever.
Yeah, I never felt really that special.
Well, you've been seeking it, so take it out.
Well, it's totally free, and anything is possible.
Well, now you can just be yourself. Now you can just be whatever the truth is. Just tell the truth. So it's either I seek an alternative that is perceived better, that is perceived as safer, but the downside of it, right? Because a lot of people get high on that. That's that they're getting high on it. They're addicted to perceiving better because it gives them this weird sense that it will give them freedom. But when you're seeking and pursuing a specific condition, whether it's richness, educationness, body imageness, religiousness, whatever the ness is, you're not free. You're in bondage with that concept. You're not free. You have to maintain the concept, hold the concept, be the concept, talk about the concept, pursue the concept, keep the concept, sell the concept. There's no freedom in that. So when you removed the specialness, whatever the symbolic specialness is, whether it's my religion is special, my body is special, my goal is special, my, whatever that is, if you remove yourself from the spotlight permanently, what happens to your life? Freedom. Total freedom. You just can live in the truth now because there's no pressure to be anything other than what it is.
Yeah, very much so. It's interesting too because I noticed instead of what should I eat, I thought in the past couple of days, what do I really want? And it was so fun, and it was so freeing, and it was so delicious. Like, it reminded me of what you told me about how, like, if you're, forcing yourself to eat something because you should, the nutrients aren't getting through because the body is just, like, resisting it because it doesn't really want it.
Totally. That's like going to church because you think you should.
Yeah.
You're not really getting anything. You're just trying to indoctrinate yourself.
It was a very interesting thing. It was so freeing. And we haven't talked about this on the call, but I've watched some of your videos about, like, truly just eating to hunger. And it's so fascinating.
Yeah, because there's no work on your part. It's literally, like, effortless because the body's in charge. Even when it comes down to what tastes good, what sounds good, you go to the mouth. Instead of one of the things that, so really we just need to communicate. I want to make sure when you said I'm eating what I want, is it a mental want or is it a mouth want? There's nothing wrong with the mental one, especially if you've been living deprived or thinking you can't eat things. There is going to be a kind of a compensatory swing to what you want, which is what you've been deprived of. But eventually you want to get into what is the mouth, what will give pleasure, what's pleasurable in the moment without need for compensation. This isn't about feeling shitty about yourself and wanting to overcompensate with sugar or beer or wine or carrots, if that's what it is, right? It's about what sounds good to the palate. That has no emotion there's no emotion involved in that.
No, it's completely instinctual.
It's instinctual and it's based on past history and what the mouth and it's really complex based on nutritional needs. If you're low in sodium, you're going to be like, ooh, I want some chips. There's going to be a weird, specific mouth, like go get. That pleasure center is very much accommodating. If you get rid of all that emotional baggage, right, and all that brainwashed drama around good food, bad food, clean, dirty, healthy, if you can get rid of all that dogma and brainwashing, what does the mouth actually want? You realize if you come into it with, that's not healthy, there's immediate sense of shame. Yeah. See how that works? Remember when I was like, that is so fucked up. You got to stop listening to that shit. Just the fact that you think it's shitty food changes everything.
Yeah.
It's not the food. It's the belief that it's shitty that causes this very specific response to it. Danger food. But your mouth is actually getting pleasure. So it's conflicting. And then you're thinking, I've done something wrong. And so how does that impact your food behavior? You're going to keep on eating it because eventually you got to remove it because you've sinned and you're going to have to repent. So you might as well get as much as you can in while you're sinning before you repent, baptize yourself cleanliness, and then try again. What about that psychology going into eating? Is it really about the narcotic response to sugar? I know it makes it sound like, oh, I never question the freaking dogma coming out of an industry that is super self-righteous in their narcissism to survive around healthy food. Like being diseased makes you a horrible person, like a leper. I mean, even if you're a leper, Does that make you a terrible person? What if you have diabetes? Oh my God, it must be the sugar. Well, of course, because you're stressed out while you're eating and your blood sugar's high just from the stress. You haven't even eaten yet and your blood sugar's high because you're stressed out about that food right there. And then you're going to blame it on the food, not the belief that says that's bad. You wouldn't have high blood sugar if you didn't hold the belief that that food is bad. So where is the toxic body coming from? The food or the belief that that food is toxic? I know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And yesterday, my son got his permit, so I have to drive all the time. I have to sit in the car while he drives all the time.
Which is freaking scary, I'm not going to lie. I've had 2 kids go through it, and my legs are up, and I'm freaking out every time.
Every day, it's like there's at least one kind of moment.
Oh, yeah, and you're like, I swear to God, I have diabetes every time I drove with my kids.
So he wanted to go to McDonald's, and I was like, sure, whatever, honey. He really loves the idea of going through the drive-thru himself, but real good boy kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally.
So whatever, and he orders a giant fry and 2 burgers and a giant milkshake, and the fries smelled so good. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a couple of these, because we specifically talked about McDonald's French fries as opposed to like Shake Shack French fries, you and I. And so I grabbed like 4 of them. And I was like, I'm going to really taste these and taste. What do they taste like?
Yeah, allow yourself to experience the food without the shame.
Yeah. And I was like, well, the best thing about them is the salt.
Totally. Well, in the warm, because when they're cold, they taste like shit. So it's like a combination, right?
And they were already warm. It's a pretty shitty McDonald's.
Right. God, I'm like, there's so many. I like McDonald's French fries, I'm not going to lie, but as soon as they're not warm, they're not good. I mean, most French fries are that way, though.
French ones? Yeah. French is great. Because, it's just got the grease hasn't congealed.
Right.
So that's the problem.
Well, which is such an important part to deliver the salt. It's like, you got to have it a little warm so that it's like, yeah, I get it. I like curly fries. I really like curly fries with fry sauce. That's an Idaho thing, I think. Love fry sauce. Anyways.
But it was a fascinating thing because then I was like, well, what I really need right now is the salt. And I've got this stuff from Trader Joe's, everything bagel seasoning, that I had and stuff to make it taste well. And I was like, you know what? I really want to just have a teaspoonful of this.
Yeah. And ddid your brain go ding, 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 ding? That sounds so good.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that's what I wanted when I had the phone home.
Totally.
And I'm like, cool, okay, well then that's satisfied and I'm good, and now I need water.
Yeah, I go between I kind of have my basic staples that are basically I just need hunger to go away. I really don't care. So whether it's a bowl of cereal or I have sourdough toast with butter, I just kind of have those basic things that I don't really have an opinion about. They're just easy for me and tolerable. But then I have moments where I'm like, I really want some sushi. Sushi, for whatever reason, is hitting the spot. Indian food, randomly, I'm like, oh, yes, I want some coconut naan. And it's like, I can't even, yeah. And I go through these cycles of cheeseburger. Sometimes it's just like, I really want a pickles, mustard. I want a classic cheeseburger. Sometimes I feel like bacon. Sometimes I don't. It's not bad or good, or I don't even have. And this is coming from someone, keep in mind, that used to be obsessive compulsive about every fucking detail of what was in every ounce of every food. I had logs and logs and logs.
Seriously?
Yes. There's a reason why I can help you, and it has nothing to do with education, because I'm not I don't have a master's degree. I have an undergrad in exercise science, basically physiology.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just coming from my own recovery. That's how I'm talking to you and everybody that will listen to this. It's coming from, I've been there, and here's what it feels like to get out. And here's how I got out. And I had to go through these processes. And if anything, there's hope. That I don't care. I don't have a clue. And it's been 21 years since I recovered. It'll be 21 years. I mean, there's still part of that brain that knows the calories, but I don't consciously even pay attention. So it's kind of blacked out. I can't tell you the last time I actually looked at something and even contemplated the caloric amounts. If I went there, I probably could, but there's no point to that. It doesn't serve me. So why even waste the energy on going, how many calories is in that cheeseburger? Oh my God, there's like 700. I wouldn't even, it's irrelevant to me. Because I'm so engaged with how the body feels, what sounds good, actually paying attention to the taste and the flavor, and then how my body's responding to that food. That's where my focus is.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting, too, because another one of the things that I had listened to you talk to someone who said, I don't want you to exercise at all.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know for myself, I took off the last couple of days to I'm like, okay.
Well, so force yourself to face.
Working out, but what do I want? Like, how do I want to move my body?
Yeah. So the goal
in my body happy.
The goal right now you're probably distorted around that. Right? Because there's too much belief pattern based in it. So why I recommend, like, if you want to recover now, remove all access to anything that you're using to feel better. That includes exercise. Right? To someone who's in that cognitive distortion, that sounds catastrophic. Like, do you want me to be depressed? Yes, I do, actually. So you can face why. So you can actually understand why. Stop coping. Is it really catastrophic for the body to take a month of exercise off? Really? Only to someone who's got an OCD, compulsive, coping mechanism with it. That's catastrophic. Right?
Yeah.
If you really want to face your reality, you have to willingly, it has to be willful, right? Cut access off to every way you are escaping these negative feelings. Don't let yourself escape. Again, so that's like that, your conditioning around, your negative life belief patterns. A lot of times, those negative belief patterns, the way you compensate is through some form of addiction, if you want to call it. Smoking cigarettes, smoking pot, getting on freaking Facebook, checking your politics. I mean, you're getting off on it, right? And you're not questioning that behavior because you've always been taught this is healthy. Of course, exercises to some degree, okay? Because it's not all or nothing. Most of the people who are using exercise to feel better are abusive around it. They don't know that. I didn't know that, right? When I was in it. So if you really want to face the foundation of where the negativity is coming from, can you afford to continue to escape it and make it go away? With an escape route. Yeah. Think of what an escape route really is. It's just, is it...
quick way around the real issue.
Yeah, the real issue's still there. You're just... Yeah. You're using a survival mechanism. Again, escapism, there's nothing wrong with that. There's benefits to escaping. If I was in a room with a bear, I'm going to want to take an exit door.
It's like the old Bugs Bunny cartoons where you say, exit stage left.
Totally. That's it. Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with the mechanism, but the problem is if you live with that, at some point, you're going to have consequences. Because you're not facing the old, and it's controlling you. It's impulsive. You're just doing what it is like being a slave. I have to escape. I have to do exercise. And you're not doing it out of pleasure so much as the pleasure of escaping. So it's really not an inherent pleasure of going for a walk in nature. It's, I have to burn calories. I have to get my heart rate up. So you're super fixated on the conditions of the exercise. This is why all those like monitoring of things has become such a big deal. People are making money on selling how to monitor your escape mechanism of burning calories and getting your heart rate up and getting as many steps as you can. There's benefits to it to some degree, but for how many people is that part of their escapism? Yeah. If it's really about the joy of of exercise, whether it's yoga, do you really need all of those outside pieces of information to motivate you? And isn't that drive an extrinsic drive versus like if I love yoga, I'm going to go for the feel of it. Again, apply this parallel to dieting and food intake. Why are you eating that food? Is it really about this outer concept of health, or is it because it tastes good? Be truthful with yourself. Don't let yourself lie. Don't enable yourself to continue to escape underlying emotions that really need to be addressed if you want to change your perceptions and beliefs that are unconscious. They become conscious when you can face them. They do. Yeah. This is why you go to therapists. They are hopefully helping you address the underlying issues, making conscious what's unconscious. But how are you going to do that if you're constantly turning your back to the issue? Whether it's this healthy idea of I'm taking nutritional supplements and I'm going to drink my shake and I'm going to go exercise and I'm going to go read a self-help book. And, again, the effort is honorable, but when do you stop and actually look at the source? And it's not easy because the source feels horrible and it feels like threat. It's your brain is saying it's threatening to look at this. It's safety to keep on doing what you're doing, right? Don't question that environment. This threat and safety, threat and safety, threat and safety, threat and safety. And this is what you live in. Well, if you're miserable with your safety mechanism, whether it's obsessive compulsive exercise, cleaning, sex with random people, porn addiction, gambling addiction, alcoholism, smoking cigarettes, I don't care what it is. If you're having issues with your coping mechanism, maybe you should look at the danger it's protecting you from, right? So going back to eliminating all exercise. Why would I recommend that with someone who's got a degree in exercise physiology? Personal trainer for 13 years, owned my own personal training gym.
Wow.
I'm still working with people. Posture, fitness. I mean, this is my gig. Why would I say you need to stop? So you can face your shit.
Wow.
It's not going to hurt your body if you quit, even for 3 months. It's not.
It's interesting, too, because the two things that I love most, the one I don't do because I don't feel like it burns enough calories, and the other one I don't do anymore because people tell me, oh, if you run, you're going to wreck your knees, you're going to wreck your hips. But, I love yoga, but it doesn't, to me, burn enough calories. And then I love running, but I'm afraid of damaging my body. Those two things make me so happy, and those are the two things I don't do.
Well, so keep in mind, is it really so happy, or is it some concept that you're trying to achieve? So here's something to be aware of. It's hard to actually know the truth until you eliminate everything and start over. Because your past always had biases and survival mechanisms attached to it. So if you can clean and start over, just like eliminate all forms of hiding and running and covering things up and face the grim reaper. It feels like you're going to die. Trust me, because these are all fight or flight mechanisms. So if you can face these underlying issues, what happens then is you will never again, if you gain the wisdom and awareness, you'll never again use a way to cope and hide consciously. Okay. You will never do it consciously again because you will learn it benefits you to face the fear. Face it. Understand it. Because when you understand it, you can actually look at why and resolve the underlying issue. Whether the underlying issue is just accepting reality, accepting that my mom died of brain cancer. I got to accept that, right?
Right.
Or actually changing a belief about something. I always believed that I had to do this. I had to have the nice yard and I had to use red petunias. But I don't have to use red petunias. I can use purple petunias because I can do what's right for me, not my neighbor. It's something stupid like that, I'm just bringing up random shit because this is you got to be able to apply this in life, right? Like what type of car I drive. I can drive a beat up piece of shit if I really want to. Does it really matter if it gets you from A to B? So you're kind of getting rid of all of these. Actually, you're facing your humanness. You're facing the reality that you could die. In the end, that's what it always comes down to, is you could die. I'll be alone. Well, what does being alone mean? Well, that I won't have, that I might have to provide for myself. Well, what does that mean? Well, what if I can't? Well, then you're going to die. You know, everything comes down to death.
You're right. You're right. That is so true. Yeah.
So face death. Face it. So by eliminating exercise, you're basically putting yourself, you're basically rewiring your brain. You're not going to impulsively do what you've always done. You're refusing. I'm not going to smoke pot. I'm not going to go have sex with someone. I'm not going to distract myself. I'm going to force myself to face what feels like the Grim Reaper and ask, what is the purpose? What will happen? Well, you're going to be alone. Okay, so what? What next? So you're just facing all the threats that are going to come up. If you don't exercise, you're going to have diabetes. No one will love you. Your ass is going to get flabby, you know. You're not burning enough calories. Well, what does that serve? So what? What happens if you don't burn enough calories? Well, then you're going to get fat. And you're not going to have a job. And you're going to be alone. No one's going to like you. And you're going to lose all your specialness. So what? You know, you just keep on getting down to the core. And I guarantee you it's going to be because you're going to die. And if it's not a physical death, it's a symbolic ego death, which is you are a nobody. And isn't that good news? Because if you're a nobody, what do you get?
Nothing.
Freedom. You get freedom. You do get something for being a nobody. You get complete and total autonomy. You can just be yourself.
Huh. Is that like sometimes I imagine how great it would be to just like run away and join the circus and change my name?
Yeah, but that's escapism. That's not really changing your perceptions. The funny thing is, but that's what you're... Yes, well, that's what your mind is. It's seeking freedom.
Yeah.
But even then, that escape, if you cannot change your personal perceptions or fears, you'll have the same issue in your circus.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because your brain is still using the same thought processing. It's the same order. It's all neurochemistry. It's the same conditioning. You're just trying to apply it to a new religion. That's what I did. I failed at this religious ideology, and in order to compensate, because I didn't believe I was forgivable, I went and basically imposed the same totalitarian ideology to my body image. I became just as radical with food. I'm going to calculate. I'm going to go to my church, which is my gym, and I'm going to burn these many calories, and I'm going to only eat this many calories, and it gave me a sense of peace and calm and safety. That was getting high. But that was how I got high, based on the low of shame because of my failed church ideology, right? You'll realize that I didn't have this conscious awareness until I faced the Grim Reaper, and then it was friggin' obvious. But you cannot get the clarity until you face the feeling of death and where it's coming from. Oh, this is coming from my shame. This horrible shame that I refuse to feel because of the way I was living, which to the culture I was raised in is catastrophic. If I were to be graded based on an average human being, I'm a good person. But based on this narcissistic ideology of supremacy, I'm a terrible person. So then you see where the solution came to me then. Well, what's the only way to recover from your horrible, horrible shame piece of shitness? Well, I have to leave the religion because it's only shameful if I hold myself to that ideology. I had to question my brainwashing. Yeah. I had to face the cognitive dissonance. Yeah. We're not wired to accept cognitive dissonance. Like, oh, there's a fact here. Oh, but no, I'm supposed to think this is righteous and all amazingness, like thinness. Like, what if you become fat? Here arises the cognitive dissonance because fat means you're a horrible person. Well, what if it's Have you ever thought to question that belief? Make sense?
Yeah,
but if I eat a French fry, I'm healthy.
Really come to terms with, I think.
Well, it's not easy. It is real. You're going against your brain's impulses at this point, right?
Yeah.
Because your brain says, well, you've always gone and exercised when you felt this way, and that makes you feel better. And so it's like saying, but you're telling me not to exercise, so you're telling me I should feel like shit? Yes. Absolutely. Why would I do that? Why would I recommend that for you?
I don't know. It sounds awful.
Okay, you need to contemplate that. Why would I recommend you not do what makes you feel better?
And then I can see the real source of what is making me feel not good.
Correct. And now you can actually change your beliefs. But let me tell you, your instincts are not wired to look at the bear and stand there and question it and have a conversation. It's not. So that's why I'm like, you have to face the Grim Reaper. You have to be willing. There's a willingness there. So I'm sitting here saying, this is what you're going to do. I've done this, so I understand how hard this is. You don't understand it yet. You haven't done it yet. But let me tell you, this is going to be the hardest thing you will have ever done in this lifetime. Period. End of story. This is like it's like I'm willing to get killed, murdered. I'm willing to be tortured because that's what it feels like. The reason,
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I literally feel like there's panic in my belly right now.
Yeah, good. Then I'm doing a good job on my side of this because I'm wanting you to face it. I'm wanting you to look at it. And I can't make you do it. So in the work that I do with people, I can tell you 50 more times to do this. I can't make you look at it. All I can say is, hey, it's going to be really bad. It's going to suck. You're going to be shaking. Your heart's going to be coming out of your chest. You're going to get mad at me because I'm the one telling you not to do anything. You're going to think I'm the one taking away your drugs. I become your enemy. That's happened a lot. But people realize, but if I want to get better, I have to let those drugs go, whether it's exercise drugs, social media drugs, my religion drugs, my, whatever it is, blaming, hating on my parents' drugs. I have to be willing to face the energy and this negativity that I'm being told by my brain not to look at because I feel I can't handle it. I can't handle that feeling. I'm too weak. It's like this massive monster and I'm freaking, it's like I'm tiny. I'm a tiny little, I'm like withered nothingness. I'm going to get crushed and decimated. Crushed into sand, blown in the wind. It literally feels like you're not going to exist if you face the Grim Reaper. It's going to suck your soul. But, honestly, you have no soul if you keep on doing what you're doing. You're just a slave to your mechanisms. Like there is no, but, until you're willing to face it, how can you change your wiring? How can you change your way of existing? You realize you have to face what you've never faced to have an opening to a different way of existing. Are you there? Hello? Hello? Are you there? I don't know. What the heck? Let me try again. Okay.